Hello and welcome to a new vlog and ship video in cooperation with ReiseJung, and today we're taking a look at days 4 and 5 on board of the Swiss Diamond. We will spend those days in Roermond, Venlo and Cuijk, and here on the map you can see our route today. We're starting in Roermond, where we arrived early in the morning. When I woke up there was a beautiful sunrise to see, beautiful red clouds above the river Meuse. And after breakfast it was time to leave the ship, and this cruise was not only our Advent cruise, it was also our Christmas shopping cruise. And of course you have perfect opportunities to go shopping in Maastricht, Nijmegen and Cologne, but the best opportunity to go shopping is today, because in Roermond we have only 5 or 10 minutes away from the ship the MacArthur Glen designer outlet, one of the biggest designer outlet shopping centers in Europe. That was of course ideal location to go shopping. I bought a new ski jacket, and after a bit of shopping it was also time to discover the city center of Roermond. You can easily reach this with this underpass, just a couple of minutes from the designer outlet away. There's something very important to know about the Netherlands, because we were visiting Roermond on a Monday. In the Netherlands shops are open on Sundays, but therefore they are closed on Monday mornings. Most shops are still closed, they open in the afternoon, so this is why the city looks a bit empty on Monday morning. But still there are a few nice things to see. For example, here we have the Kerk, which is one of the most beautiful buildings of the city. Here we can see the church again, and behind the church was yet another party location. Instead of a typical Christmas market, can also be used as an ice skating rink. And here we are back at the marketplace with another cathedral, and here we can see our beautiful Swiss Diamond third docking location in Roermond. We're now heading back on board for lunch, and after lunch we were then also leaving Roermond, continuing on to Venlo, our next destination. There was another ship with us today in Roermond, and that's the Ariel Royal, and the sister ship of this beautiful ship will be part of the ReiseJung fleet next year, in the year 2027, for our Christmas cruise, so exactly 2 years after the cruise we are watching right now. We then had to turn around and going upstream again, because there's one lock which is at the moment closed for a longer time due to renovations. We're sailing past some black swans and cows, and then we are reaching a lock, that's the lock Rhine. There we have to go up, then we're turning 180 degrees, and then we're going directly again into a lock. This is the lock Heel, directly next to the lock Rhine, but it's located on a canal. It's on the lateral canal, and there we are going back down again, and then we are sailing on the canal past Roermond, and then we're continuing on the Meuse downstream. We were enjoying a scenic ride in the afternoon, exploring the river Meuse, which is new for all our guests, and also for us it was new. We're the first time on this beautiful river, but we will be back in this year, so we will see some more of this river in the videos this year. Main highlight of this stretch is the passage of the city Kessel, where we can see the Kasteel, the Keverberg, which was only reopened in 2014 with some modern additions to it, looking very nice. A few guests were even coming up to the sun deck, even though of course it was cold outside in November, but that was a quite beautiful sight. And then we have one more lock, the lock of Belfeld, and after this lock we're almost reaching Venlo. In between it was time for yet another fantastic dinner, and as you can see the presentation of the food is fantastic, and also the taste was amazing. The main course we can see here of course was my own creation. I couldn't decide whether I want to have the fish or the meat main course, so I just simply asked for both on one plate, and of course the kitchen is very flexible and that was no problem. Here we're sailing past Steil. There are several monasteries, and we can see the church of one of those, and here we are already in Venlo. We were staying overnight, so we decided to head into the city center for a nice glass of Dutch beer, and we walked to the marketplace, which is the most beautiful place of Venlo, and there we found an open bar. Venlo feels a little bit German because there are not so many open places in the evening. Usually in the Netherlands you will always find an open bar, but here in Venlo it was a bit more difficult to find something, but we found a nice place for a glass of beer, and then it was time to head back to the ship and go to sleep. The next morning we stayed in Venlo. We had a city tour, but I decided to stay on board, and here we are already continuing on in the direction of Düsseldorf. We're heading back to the Rhine, but there's something special about river cruises. Of course, captains cannot work 24/7. They also have working hours, and there are several laws, and one of them says if you have 2 captains on board, the ship can sail for a maximum of 18 hours, and then it has to stay still for 6 hours. Unfortunately, we cannot make it in 18 hours to Düsseldorf, so there are 2 options. We could either ask for a 3rd captain, but that's quite expensive for us. That will raise the charter price of the ship, and that means also for our guests the cruise will be much more expensive. So the second option is to stop somewhere in between. We decided to find a nice place. The obvious place would be Nijmegen, but we've already been there, so we decided to stop in the small village of Cuijk. We already informed our guests that this is a technical stop. Of course they can leave the ship, but they shouldn't expect too much of the city. The way there was pretty spectacular. We saw cows and we even saw some wild coning horses, so that was a very scenic ride. Sailing on the Maas is very beautiful, as this river has a quite unique landscape. It's of course a rather flat landscape, but there's always something to see. You can especially see a lot of animals. Here we have the only lock in between, the lock of Sambeek, and after that it doesn't take too long until we are reaching our destination for the afternoon in Cuijk. Here we are leaving the lock of Sambeek, and we can still enjoy the beautiful landscape around the river Meuse, and of course we can see some animals, so it was quite interesting to be in the lounge or even up on the sun deck and enjoy the scenery. And now we're slowly getting closer to Cuijk, and we were a bit nervous about this stop because we tried our best to inform our guests that they do not have high expectations, so that nobody's disappointed, because it's just a very small city. Here we can already see the main side of Cuijk, which is the Martinuskerk, the church, which was only built from 1911 to 1913, and the tower in front of it is the old church tower, which is more than 500 years old. It also holds a museum, but it was closed in wintertime. The church was partly open, at least we could take a look inside, even though we couldn't wander around, but can take a look at this magnificent building. And then we walked a bit through the city center of Cuijk. As I mentioned, we didn't have any expectations. We also made sure our guests have no expectations, but we were surprised in a very positive way because the city was much nicer than I was expecting it. There were more shops than we thought. There's even a shopping center, we knew that, but also the shopping center was nicer than we expected it, and there were several shops around it, so it's even suitable for a little bit of shopping. There are a few restaurants and cafes, and in the evening we even found an open bar, so we were surprised in a very positive way, and we can clearly see that the Dutch people know how to keep a small city alive. For example, a small city in Germany of the same size would have much less shops and bars, so we were surprised in a very positive way. And then we went into the Café Taurus, which is a nice local bar, because we wanted to have Dutch beer for the last time this year, as it was our last cruise in the Netherlands. And in German bars you get beer from 1 or 2 breweries, but here in the Netherlands, especially in this cafe, you can get more than 100 different beers, so of course we had to enjoy that for one last time. Back on board there was a surprise for our guests. We gave them a little present in the restaurant, and then we also enjoyed another fantastic dinner on board. And then it was showtime again. We have a second artist on board, Rainer Vogel, who is singing songs of the famous German singer Peter Maffay, but he's also singing his own songs. And it was his evening today. And of course we're gonna take a look at his show, and now we're listening to Rainer Vogel live on board.
7 über 7 Brücken musst du gehen, 7 dunkle Jahre überstehen. Ti amo, ti amo, ti amo, ti amo. Bin ich ein Kind geblieben.
So as you can see, Passengers were really enjoying it. There was a good atmosphere on board. It was a nice evening, and after that, of course, it was time to go to sleep, and we will continue in Düsseldorf in the next video, and there we will take a look at the last 3 days on board. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Here you can see when the next video will be uploaded and the name of the song as always. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, or share the video link, and I hope to see you in the next video. And I also hope that I maybe see you one day on a ReiseJung cruise. In the video description you will find the link to ReiseJung to get more information about our cruises.